stand out, speak up. Okay, my name is Lydia Tetolet. I always say I don't introduce myself where I'm from because I just do this. Wakanda forever! And you know where I'm from. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. On Wednesday, 6:30 UK time and Kenyan time, 8:30. So welcome. Today, we've been in this journey of domestic violence. I think this is the second month we're in this journey of domestic violence. And this is something that even if we take 1 year talking about it, it will still take time to uproot it or to change it. Because right now we're talking domestic violence is getting worse and worse and worse.
It is.
And yet we're talking about it every blessed Wednesday. But what I say is if I'm talking about it, someone else is talking about it, every single person is giving their little piece about domestic violence, then probably just then we will see it being uprooted from our community or our society or the world, the universe itself. Because domestic violence, I know we had a discussion here Sunday with someone, and they were talking here about in Africa. No, domestic violence is everywhere. It's not for black people, it's not for white people, it's not for Chinese, it's not for Indians, it's not for Africa, it's for every single continent in the world. So guys, we need to step up and start campaign against domestic violence. You know, yesterday I was reading on Facebook, and we have 4 people in Kenya who have died. And this is just the ones that I was reading it in the lady called Jerry Usikimye. This is just 4 that she knows.
Wow.
So there's so many that she doesn't know.
Wow.
This is just 4. And all is through domestic violence. So guys, we need to step up. 4 people that she knows, that's a lot. Okay? But before I continue, I would like my guest to introduce herself, because when I start talking, you won't be able to stop me, especially when it comes to domestic violence. I'm so passionate about it. So let my guest introduce herself. Today, she's in here with me in the studio, and then we can kick off.
Thank you so much, Lydia. It's so good to be back once again, and thank you for having me here to talk about this very interesting and sensitive topic. My name is Tandy Jacobs. I am from the Tandy Jacobs TV show, Born to Differ, where I believe each and every person was born to be different, and we all have our uniqueness. And you can also find me on Facebook, on all social media platforms really, and YouTube and Instagram, and that's where we're all talking and sharing and trying to empower women and young children to be independent about who they are and to take ownership of who they are as an individual.
Wow, thank you very much, Tandy, and it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
And I've been to your show twice.
You have?
Been to twice.
I know. I couldn't say no. I was like, I gotta go.
And it was last minute as well.
It really was.
I think that's what it's called, women empowering women.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you call me, I'm there. When I call you, you're there. People always think that it's about money. It's not about money.
No, not at all.
Yes.
It's not. And also the thing is, it's also about the topic.
Yes.
You know, it's like when you called me, it was just like, Tandy, domestic violence, you saw what's happening. I'm like, it's no 2 questions, I'm coming.
I'm coming.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So, you know, this domestic violence, they say, I know when COVID came and they're like, oh, pandemic. But COVID is something that is coming and going, you know. And we pray that it goes forever. And now it's left a lot of countries, it's left a lot of us. Yes, there's a lot of people that died through COVID. But I don't see that as a pandemic. I see domestic violence as a pandemic. Because it's been there since.
Yeah.
It's still there now.
Yeah.
And if we don't stop it, it's still going to continue. Because remember, I was talking about the cycle. You know, if you don't break that cycle, it's going to continue.
It will continue.
So our parents' generation, because they saw their parents and their parents saw their parents, so it's being passed on. So if we don't stop, as my generation, from 4th floor to 5th floor and probably above 6, if we don't stop it, our children are going to do the same, and then their children are going to do the same. So this is a pandemic, because it's
I agree with you, because it's something that it's been going on for a very long time. It's a crisis, and we are seeing people dying. People are being killed. The domestic violence that's happening there is not just damaging people in terms of they're breaking their arms or legs. That people are actually dying, and families are being destroyed by it. And we really have to look at it more and invest in it more. And it's more of a culture as well. You know, as in sometimes, which right now is I'm sitting and I'm thinking, maybe people when they look at us and they hear us talking, they're thinking, oh, you're sitting there you know, on this table, you're looking all beautiful, you got your red hair, your earrings, you're all dolled up, makeup. What do you know about domestic violence? Do you see what I mean? But domestic violence doesn't care, like what you said, it's not about culture, it's not about the color of your skin, it's not about whether you had makeup or degree or learned or not, it doesn't matter. Domestic violence is hitting each and every home.
Yes.
And we need to do something about it.
We need to do something. And that is why personally I'm calling it a pandemic. Because it doesn't matter, like you said, whether you're a doctor, it doesn't matter who you are. But the thing is, one thing that a victim needs to have is value. You need to value yourself. And the other thing as well is when it starts from the beginning, that red flag, the first red flag. We had somebody here. I had somebody here some few weeks ago. We were talking about domestic, because I've been doing this for like 2 months now. And she's a pastor's wife. And she said there's a day the husband shouted at her. They were driving or something. She said, park the car. She said, don't you ever again do like that. That was the first flag. She didn't pick it and put it in the bag, because that's what we do. We keep on picking them and say, oh, he didn't mean it or she didn't mean it. And they take it and put it in the bag. But that is the first. But I know some men always say that, oh, we're being biased because we're always talking about women. But we also have men who go through domestic violence. And you see, the sad thing with men is they don't have this space to talk about it.
No, they don't.
So if they get that space, men will laugh at them and say, you're a wimp, you're weak. How can you be beaten by a woman?
Yeah.
Women will mock them
and
say, it's what? And then children will disrespect them.
Exactly.
Because they'll be like, oh, he's been beaten by a woman. So they have no space to talk about this. And that's why if you see the rate of even people committing suicide, and I'm not saying it's through domestic violence, it's a lot of men, because they don't have any space to open up.
Mental health in men is actually very high because they don't have that space in which they can be able to talk about it. Because sometimes, like you're saying, when they go into they're like, man up, you know, what's wrong with you, you know. And from a young age, they're being told to man up, you know, don't do this, don't do that. So they don't have that room to be actually able to say that, look, I'm actually going through a lot right now, you know. And sometimes they feel, I may say this word wrong, demasculated. Did I say that? Yes, thank you.
That's fine.
Sometimes they feel demasculated if they go and share this with other men. Because when they go out there, they need to appear to be tough, to be strong, to be the head of the home, you know, to be like a lion, to roar. But because they're being abused at home, they can't say that and they can't share it with anybody. But that space, that area needs to be created. And each and every person, and that's what I always say, that each and every person needs to find their place where they can feel and be able to pour out. Each and every one needs to have that. You know, if it's like I always look at it from like a bathroom tub. You know, when you're having a bath, you put a plug and the water fills up. If you don't let the water out, it will spill over. Everybody needs to let the plug and let it out. Because there will come a time when if you don't let it out, it will start to spill. And when it spills the wrong way. It will flood the tub. It will flood. Sometimes the towels start lifting up. It will destroy the home. And that's exactly what happens. If you don't have a place where you can vent, where you can let it out, you keep it in, there will come a time where it will overflow and it will come out at the wrong place, and your action might then be wrong.
Wow. That is deep. So
I'm going to share this.
So we now really want to identify that there is domestic violence with men, and that's why we're talking about this space, because women have this space in the salon. You've dropped your children, you stand there. Women have space everywhere. They can just stand and talk. And I know that we concentrate so much about domestic violence on women and then on men, but we forget the most vulnerable, children. We don't talk about domestic violence in children. We so much concentrate on women first and then men, and then children are always left. Like, these people don't really matter. But children matter a lot, because it's the same children that will grow up and continue with this abuse.
I went to, I think it was a couple months ago, just before I went to Zimbabwe. I was invited to be an MC in London, and there were ladies who wrote a book they'll forgive me, I can't remember the title of the book, which I even bought. But there were 12 ladies who wrote in that book, and each one had a story. And one of them said, I am a child of domestic violence. And she came, and I remember I was so touched by what she said, because she said everybody looks at the victim and the perpetrator, but nobody looks at the child. She said, I was a child through domestic violence. And in her book, she talks about it, and she narrated it when she was standing at the pulpit, about how she was not able to sustain her marriage because she was ready for a fight. And that bitterness and that anger, and yet her husband was lovely, but she was constantly, and at the end she began to abuse him. Until the pastor sat her down, and she said her husband went and poured at the pastor, and the pastor came and talked to her. That's when they looked at the root cause analysis, and it was because of what had happened to her when she was so young. And she said, you have no idea as parents what we, the children, what we go through when we watch our mother, our dad being abused.
That's right. And that's why we say the most vulnerable are not the children, because they'll now carry it over. So if she did not get that help that she got and wrote that book and changed her perspective on being abused, she could have continued abusing the husband. Her children would have seen what she's doing and probably again carry it over. And then this is a pandemic that is not going to finish. And like when you spoke, just going back to what you spoke about, people are being killed. People are actually being killed. But this is things that we're seeing because of social media. Yeah. Those days of our parents, there was no social media. There wasn't. Do we know how many men or how many women? Because to be honest, statistically, it's women. Okay. Do we know how many women died? Exactly. So many women died, but because there was no social media, we didn't know about them. We just hear, oh, so-and-so died, so-and-so died. Every time you just hear, there was a video going round, and that video, I used it the other Wednesday that I was here, and there was this woman who was beating the man. He beat this man. I think he even killed the man, because she took a rock and she hit the man's head, and then the recording stopped, whoever was recording it. And when I put it on my family WhatsApp, my sister was like, Lydia, this is what we saw when we were growing up. Because all we saw when we were growing up, not in our own house, outside, in the plot, in the community. If it's not your dad beating your mom in the house, or your mom beating your dad, the ones that their moms beat their dads, you open the door. Just there in the veranda, you see a man beating a woman. It's just violence. You're just surrounded by this violence. But you have to make a choice to break this cycle. So it's about choices. So you can't sit down and just say, like, I have one person today, we were talking, and somebody told me that when they were growing up, when they were born, their mom passed on and their dad passed on. But if you see them, they are successful businesswomen. She's so successful. Wow. She didn't sit down and say, oh, my mom passed, my dad passed, and then my auntie did, my uncle did, and the community did. She made a choice. And she said, no, I'm going to change, and I'm going to break this cycle, and I'm not going to live with that mentality of pity party. So we have to make that sober choice that we're going to break this thing called violence, and it's not going to continue. So you see, like, I know I'm going to talk about children right now, because last week I was in church and we were discussing about Osinachi. Some women were standing there, they were talking about her, and they just me being nosy, like I'm always nosy. I heard, and I was like, this is my topic. Why are they talking about my topic, domestic violence? You think I'm the only person who talks about it. So I approached them, and I was just there listening. Before I could open my mouth, I listened a lot, because I didn't want to interfere with anybody, how they feel about this issue. And wow, they were actually, a lot of women, they were actually blaming her.
They were blaming her?
Yeah, they were actually blaming her. They're saying, oh, what did she do to the children? So the angle they were coming from is that she did not protect those children, because apparently there's a child who is also 12 years old in one of her children who doesn't even know how to read. So how was she protecting her family? She did not protect those children. She did not protect herself. But I was just listening, because I was like, I didn't look at it like that. I was just looking at the victim. Okay. But then when they started talking about the damage these two caused on the children, but now they're thinking, well, you were the one who was being abused, So why didn't you take your power back and take your children and go? But it's never that easy. It's always easier said than done. What do you think about this?
It's. I mean, I totally agree in the sense that the damage that it's unfortunate it's being blamed on the mother, you know, because clearly the dad was not thinking about the kids at all. In my opinion, I think both parents have really destroyed the children's future. But however, the mum having been abused, because the abuser doesn't think, you know, because if they were thinking, they wouldn't have abused in the first place. The mum having been abused, yes, it is our duty as a mother to protect your children. That is one of the motherly instincts.
Yes.
You have to do everything you possibly can to protect your children. Now, there is this statement where, especially a lot of I find it a lot in our African community, where mothers will say, I will stay for the sake of my children. To them, staying is better than children growing up in a broken home, because they don't want the children to grow up in a broken home. But unknown to them, it's already broken. Because the fact that you are being abused, your children can see it. There is no peace, there is no joy. It's a hostile environment, it's tense. And from my understanding, the children at one time were being asked, the dad was telling the children to hit her. You know, I mean, what is that? What kind of, you know, inhumane? It's inhumane. It's insane for a man to hit your mother, you know, and yet a mother is, I mean, we value a mother. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that comes with being a mother. So yes, in terms of running away and escaping and taking the children with her is something that she should have done. If it meant, and I've heard of stories where some people have taken their children back to her home, and she's gone back to say, let me save my marriage, and she's thinking, let me try to save the marriage, and then the children will come back. Maybe that would have been a safer move, you know, or a better move. But in this case, the children are really damaged. You should not, 12 years old, can't read, can't write. You need to have done something to make sure that the children can read. You know, what have you done to the children? What have you deposited in the children? How have you empowered them? My mom always says that, Tandy, from the child from 0 to 5, it's what you say to a child, to your child, that a child will hold on to. And be careful, that's the foundation of a child. So from 0 to 5, what you put in, what you feed the child, those are the things. And then from 5 to 10, there's a lot of other things that are now being filtered in. But you hear from 0 to 5, no, my mommy said, my mommy told me not to do that. From 5 to 10, they're now beginning to learn few things from other people, but the foundation of what the mother would have said and done is what they will continue to treasure and hold. Now, if there is nothing, and there's no education, there's no empowerment, there's absolutely zero, what have we done for the child? What have we done?
I think that is what the women were talking about. And when I heard them at the beginning, I wanted to defend and say, no, come on. But when I sat down and I thought of those children, I sat down and I thought that you were the one, those children were actually depending probably on the mom to protect them, because their mom wasn't beating them. So it's only the dad. So they know that the only person who don't beat us is our mom. So it's only our mom who can protect us. But yet the mom wasn't doing anything to protect them. She left them, she put them in more danger than good. So just to tell people out there, when you think that, oh, I want to stay because of the children, you're actually causing more harm and damage on these children, because it's better to co-parent when you guys are separated. It's better to co-parent. And like I always say when I'm talking about domestic violence, we're not campaigning for divorce. That's not what we're talking about. We're not campaigning for divorce. No. So tomorrow you start backing your bag and say, well, Lydia and Tandy said I have to go, so I'm going. We're not campaigning for divorce, and we're not advocating for divorce either. No. But we're saying a safe environment for your own sanity and for your children. It's very important, because these children that you're saying, I'm staying behind for the children, you're causing so much damage. And these children will go. And that's why you see the children get to a certain age and they start becoming rebellious.
Very rebellious.
You know, if let's just say if, and this is a big if those children were older, like probably 19, 20, they would have even killed the dad themselves.
They would have.
Because they see what the dad is doing to their mom. So they would have either beat their mom now, or if one person would have come up and they have sense and they're like, this is not right because you're hurting my mom. Every time mom is crying. Because children, regardless of what, they're always close to their mom. Okay, because of the nature, mother nature that we have. So if they're so angry with the dad, one day probably just take the dad and push him, stop beating my mom, and the dad falls down and hits his head. Now the child has a criminal record. The child has to live with forever, I killed my dad. You understand? It's even being in prison is better than him now living with the guilt that he killed his dad.
That he killed his dad, exactly.
And then now you'll have siblings who will start resenting him that you killed our dad. Probably they won't even see what our dad was doing. They'll be like, yeah, but you killed him. So this child is now left by himself because of you.
Because of
that. I'm staying behind because of the children. And then we also have these women that, is there anything else?
I actually know of a story here in the UK. And I know of a family where the mum was being abused a lot by the Zimbabwean couple, was being abused by her husband. And she stayed, But one day she decided, I've had enough, because she was saying, I'm staying for the kids. I've had enough. And she packed up. Whilst they were sitting, whilst they were getting into the car, the firstborn child, as soon as the mom got in to say, we're driving off now, the firstborn child said, I have been waiting for this day. I have been waiting for this day that you would leave. And all this while, she thought she had been staying for the kids. And yet the kids had been waiting for mom to leave. And you see now in terms of the damage. So after a few years, I think 3 or 4 years, she decided to go back to her husband. And do you know what the son said?
Oh, no.
If you go back, I will disown you.
To the mom?
To the mom.
But yet she still went back.
And said, I will never come back. He's not my dad.
Can you imagine the damage?
So you look at the damage of what you have done. The child has grown up seeing that. And now he's supposed to start his own home, his own family. And what kind of foundation has been set from where he's coming from? Sometimes when you go back, from a spiritual point, they'll say, this is in the family, this is all this anger, this is what they'll be talking about. You know what I mean? And yet you can see that this is not from your ancestors. This is direct from your mom and dad. It's not that far. It's direct. It's just right there.
Yeah.
We need to do everything we possibly can as parents, as a mother. And I'll speak on behalf of the mothers because I am a mother right now. That we need to do everything we possibly can to support and stand and protect our children. It is our responsibility. When God created us as women, it is our responsibility. We're the ones who are giving birth to these children. We have to take that responsibility to protect, to safeguard. I went to my son's school the other day and they said to me, because I had written an email, and they said, yes, your clause came out. Because they had said something which I thought,
not to my child.
Not to my child. And the principal actually said, yes, your clause came out. Because that is what a mother does.
You have to protect.
You have to protect.
And in talking about protecting your child, if you're in domestic violence, also as a woman, you shouldn't be beating your husband because you're still causing damage to these children as well, because the children can see. And that is why here, and I keep on talking about this story because this one happened in the UK as well, a mother and her son abusing their dad. It's not that child's fault, it's that woman's fault. And the woman allowed the son, or the woman and the son, they hit this man on the head. He had his head was opened. He got up to, I think it's 12 stitches. And this is here in diaspora. This is a Kenyan, okay, here in diaspora. And what damage as a woman, what are you doing to this child? Because this child will go and start his own family. You're gone, probably you're dead, or even you're still alive, but this child is starting his life. What advice, what are you planting? What seed are you planting in this child? So just like Tandy said, either you're a woman who is in domestic violence, or you're a victim, or you're a perpetrator, regardless of which side you are in, and you have children. These children need protection.
They do.
because these are the children that will carry this generation tomorrow. So that means that's why pandemic don't finish, because we're still going round and round.
Yeah.
Because I was raised and born and bred in a domestic violence situation.
Right.
And I've said it so many times. My dad hit my mom one day. That's something I will never forget.
Wow.
And all her teeth came out.
Oh, no.
And she had to run to the neighbors and they put her teeth back. And my mom was always there. And one day my dad took hot water as well. She was sitting like this. And she was pregnant with our last one. Chucked the hot water on her. So, and this woman just stayed. My mom just stayed. And one day I was asking her, why did you stay? There's a time she even went back to her mom's house. Because her mom was in the village, because we were born in the city. Her mom told her, go back to your husband. Go back to your husband. So and if I did not decide my children, I'm not living like this. But I still lived like this for so long. For 17 years, I was with my partner who as well abused me. And my children saw. And that has affected my children so much, Sunday. If I tell you, my children have been affected, especially my first, because she was older. One day I was having a discussion with her, and I felt so bad that I stayed. And what happened? I still left anyway. At the end of the day, he still left me at the end of the day. So I could have just left when my girl was still young, for her not to see all these things that happened.
Through, yeah.
But she saw all these things, and those things really damaged her. So I'm telling you guys, let's protect these children. They did not ask to be born. They found themselves here. One way or another, they found themselves here.
Yeah.
So we do have to protect them.
You see, and the thing is, for me, like what you've just said, is that sometimes people do go and seek help. But if the help that you go and seek is not the right kind of help, then you're not going to go anywhere. So you mentioned your mom, that one time she ran away and she went to her mother, but her mother told her to go back.
Yeah.
And yet she had run to her place where she felt this was my safe place, and yet she's been told to go back because probably it's the right thing. And it happens a lot. In Africa, it happens a lot, even here in the UK. It happens a lot everywhere, different cultures, and that's why I was talking about culture earlier on as well, that the culture that is there is that you cannot leave your husband. Are you the first one to be beaten? Those are the remarks you'll be told. Yes. Are you the first one? Even me, I was beaten. What is the problem? And I stayed. Look at me now. I am happy. I'm looking good. He will change. So it's those kind of things that you are told. So you've run for help, but the help you've gone to is the wrong kind of help. You're not going to go anywhere. Instead, you will sink, or let alone you will die. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Or at the end, your children will be damaged. The cycle, like you were talking about the pandemic, it will continue because of what they've seen growing when they were growing up, and it will carry on and will carry on. And when they come to for help, they'll be told, no, go back.
It's the same thing. There's a lady, again, Jerry, because she deals a lot of this domestic violence. She said there's a woman who they called for help because her husband was this close to killing her. So she came sick for help, and they took her and they asked her, do you have a family? She said, yes, I have my 3 brothers. So they took her to her 3 brothers. The next day she was back in that woman's house because the brothers beat her blue black. You see, these are brothers, say, go back to your husband. You cannot come here, you're a disgrace. You see, so and again, probably those brothers are beating their own wives as well.
Culture, yeah.
So culture, again, you go back, because that is what we do. That is, we've been beaten, we stayed.
Culture.
And then also, because I say that there's a lot of people who are using excuses, and now we're talking about women. There's a lot of women as well who use excuses. Oh, not financially stable. Okay, now going back again to Osinachi, and that's what the women are talking about. She was financially stable. She was the one bringing money, millions of naira in the house and putting all the money in the husband's hand. And then the husband now is the one that will give her pocket money. This one is for your transport. This one is for this. This one is for this. She was financially stable. And that's why I found out that those women were actually angry with her, because everything that the excuses that women give, I don't have money, I'm not working, because sometimes women, they need to empower themselves. You need to get out there and go and work, go and do something. Even if you're doing mama mboga in Kenya is people who sell vegetables on the road.
Okay, yeah.
Those women, they're very rich. You know, Mama Mboga, they are very rich. Yeah. So because sometimes when Mama Mboga shows you what they've done with that their little money that they're picking, I'm telling you, it's massive.
So much more than what others
are doing, because a lot of Mama Mbogas have this brain. Because if you have wisdom and you have the knowledge and you have the strength, why can't you go there and work? If you're saying, oh, I'm in here because I'm financially disabled, I can't do this, I can't do this, don't you feel like those are just excuses of
those are you see, it all comes down to self-esteem. It also comes down to, it is one of the excuses that people give because about not being stable and thinking that the man is the breadwinner and therefore he should provide and look after me. You know, from the top of my head to the sole of my foot, they should provide. But just before I answer into that, I just want to, before we completely conclude with regards to the children, that here in the UK, at least, there's a children's helpline. So in case children are watching or observant of abuse happening in their home, that there is a helpline that they can call so that they can be able to vent and talk and get help.
Yes.
And then they can be removed from the situation. And even the local authority, social services, very much remove children so that they do not witness all that is happening and they can safely protect. So if any child is in a situation where they are in a home or a family and there is abuse, whether it's the mom being abused or the dad is being abused, do not hesitate to pick up the phone, to call the police, to call, in fact, even report to your teachers, because anybody who is in authority is supposed to report that type of abuse. So please, if you are a child and you are going through that and you're observing that, please do seek for help, and they will come and they will help you and, you know, protect you. I just thought I'd say that as well. As we're talking.
That's important, and even to women as well, like we said. Don't use your children as scapegoats and say, oh, I'm staying because of the children. No, you're staying there because you want to stay there. You're not staying there because of your children. And if you feel like, I love this man so much, I can't leave him, then take the children out of that space.
Exactly.
Take the children, give the children away, because that means that you're an unfit mother. Give those children away and stay with the man.
Yeah.
Go back and stay with the man and let the children go to a safer place, because, guys, children they cannot protect themselves. They cannot fight for themselves. They cannot talk for themselves. They have no voice. And also, it's up to us to teach those children to value themselves. So if you as a mother cannot even value yourself, you cannot love and respect yourself, how do you expect your child to value and respect themselves?
Exactly. How do you expect that to happen?
Just before we go back to that, one of my friends told me the other day, and this was so funny because she didn't even think this. She really struggled. She used to struggle financially, but she still left the man. She struggled that one day she went to Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's. No, Asda's. She went to Asda's and she had nothing. She just went and started crying there with her children and said that they gave her food. They gave her, Asda people gave her everything she wanted, and they told her, we are going to feed you until the day you are stable. She took her children again, went to the home office, started crying. She left the man who used to provide just because she wanted to protect her children. So she carried her children and she went everywhere, and she was crying. She was walking on the road crying with her children, asking people to help. But yet she left a man who had so much money behind just because of the abuse. Now she's financially stable. Now she's so rich. She has money now. And that's the other thing as well. When you think the beginning is never the end.
That's
when
true.
you're in the tunnel, you come out of the tunnel. Don't worry. The tunnel will not last forever.
That's so true.
It did not last forever for my friend. And now she took her children one day. They went to this 5-star hotel. She was like, now I can afford it. So she took all her children there for a week for them to just have the best time ever in their life. You know what her daughter told her? And she said that's the first time her children started talking to her. Like they talk, but not deep stuff. She said, Mommy, you don't respect yourself. And she was shocked. She said, what? Do you know, this child is just 10, a girl 10. She said, you don't respect yourself. The mom said, what do you mean? Because anytime dad comes back, dad will just lie to you and you take him back, and dad will lie to you and you give him money and dad will lie to you. The woman said she was embarrassed and ashamed. her own daughter told her, you don't respect. She used the word respect.
Yourself.
So if your children see you like that, you don't respect yourself, you don't value yourself, you don't love yourself, how are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to where are they supposed to get that?
Exactly. And that's where the problem, that's where it all starts. And sometimes we think we're covering up, we're protecting, we're doing this, and yet no, we're actually damaging. And children can see.
They can see. They are smart. They can see. Just because they don't talk, but they can see. And that's why you see, we end up when now children are grown-ups, they end up beating their parents.
Yeah.
Because,
that's painful.
Yeah, because if mom was being beaten by dad, then me too, I can beat mom. Because dad has been beating mom and mom is just staying. So me too, I can just beat mom. So now we're going to the excuses that women use, financial excuses.
Yeah. You see, the thing is, it's about being independent. It's the lack of women thinking I need to be dependent on a man. It's his responsibility. And you will find, you see, which is funny, it's like being a Christian, you find people pick and choose which verse they want, what scripture they want, you know.
Hallelujah. Preach it, sister.
We pick and choose what we want and what fits the occasion and stuff like that, you know. For example, in terms of submission, men be submission, you know, women should be submissive, you know, and men, you should love your wives. So they want you to be submissive in terms of do everything, including rolling yourself on the floor, and the men will walk on you. And that's not what submissive is all about. You know, and a man to be the head of the home, to provide and to protect the family, you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean a woman, you should literally do nothing for yourself. You know, yes, a man should protect you and love you, but if you have nothing and you are dependent on him, hand, foot and mouth, that's where the problem starts. That's where the problem. If you don't have value, when a man finds you, he needs to find you with value. And when he finds you with value, it's not about him having to devalue you, because there's some men who feel like just because you've made it, you know, this is Lydia, she's right at the top. They want to come and strip all that, you know, and make you into a nothing, and then they feel they can control. You know what I mean? There are men like that. And once you see the characteristics of a man like that, leave him. Because that it's not worth it. But a man should see that this woman has got value. You need to put the value on yourself. Now, it all starts again from when you are young, from the time you're a teenager, from the time you grow up, become a teenager, and you're empowering the things that are feeding you. Where are you going in terms of getting fed, in terms of your mind, educating yourself and empowering yourself? By the time you get to 18, 19, 20, you should already, even the way you walk, you should be able to tell this person has got value. This person puts, you know, is not just walking anyhow. You know what I mean? So it's about value.
The way you carry yourself.
The way you carry yourself. The way you talk. It's about every little thing
about you.
When
you wake up and you go to bed. Everything defines you from when you wake up and when you go to bed.
Exactly. And it's not about whether you're with somebody or not. It's just about you in your own space, in your own environment. When I come to you, I should already know the characteristics, what you can and cannot take. So coming to the financial aspect of it, if you already have something already of substance, something that already gives you are not dependent on a man.
Yes.
When our mothers or when women say, I'm staying for my children, it's because you are dependent on the man to provide for the children. And you think, ask yourself, why are you having to sit and wait? And also, I mean, sometimes you're like, okay, why then did you have 10 children if you cannot look after them?
Yes.
There are so many contraceptives out there. Why are you having so many children?
That is another topic that and it's funny because it's most people who are in these situations, either they're in domestic violence or they're very poor or they're struggling. Those are the ones that go and have 10 children and then they can't look after them.
They cannot look after the children. So you need to do something. You talked about the women who are selling vegetables. That is something, is a source of income. Sitting at home and waiting for the man to come with every little penny, every dollar, even to be able to buy you sanitary towels. Which you yourself as a woman, it's your necessity. It's not the man's necessity, it is your necessity. You cannot do without it. Month after month, you know it's going to happen. and yet you are waiting for the man to provide for you. That's where the problem starts. It's better for you to go and seek help. And there are people in terms of charities or people who I myself right now, I'm supporting because I can see that this person has left her husband, she's with her kids, and you're like, you know what, I will support you. And she's starting something for herself. But rather than being in the home and not doing anything and just being abused, that's where it all starts. Do something for yourself.
Get out and do something. So that even if you ask for help, someone can actually look and say, wow, Lydia actually deserves it because she left that man. She's doing something for herself. But the people who just go and have so many children and then they now can't leave, and the men are smart. These men, some of them, I always advocate for men as well, because I know a lot of people don't advocate for men, but I do advocate for both genders. Okay, so I'm always in the middle, balanced. But some men, they're very smart. They think that giving you children and giving you children and giving you children, now
that's all you should do.
And that's all you should do, and that will make you stay, and you will not go anywhere. And then on top of that, they're abusing you. On top of that, they're not even providing properly for these children, and then you still want to stay. They're not paying school fees for these children. Example, if it's Africa, here education is free, thank God, but there's still things that children need, even in this country. Even though education is free, there's still things that they need. Not just want, but necessity they need. So regardless of where you are, because even here we see a lot of women having so many children and then they not can't do anything. And to me, if you're in Africa, I can have a little empathy. I can have some little percentage of empathy, not 100%. But if you're in a white man's land, like they call it, civilized world, I don't think I'll have any empathy. You sitting down there and telling me that you have nothing, that is the man providing for these children. When there is help in every corner, there is help.
There is help.
There is help in every corner.
There is
so
help.
You sitting down and causing damage on those children, and you sitting down and making those children suffer, is your wish, is your will. You want to stay there. So don't use those children as an excuse. And I know there's a lot of aspect. There's so many different aspects why women stay. Especially, again, going back to our continent, Africa. You see a girl who's been married, the mom married them off at the age of 10, 11. They are those ones.
They are.
So this woman is now 20, 25. What does she know? She was married at the age of 10.
Yeah.
So that one, you can have so much empathy on them. And that is why we need women now to empower these children. We need women to come out and talk about these things, so that even that mother who is going to give her 10-year-old or 11-year-old for marriage, it's wrong.
It's wrong. It's very wrong. And again, it comes down to culture, because what you've just mentioned, there was a recent incident, I think it was last year, where quite a lot of people complained with regards to it happened in Zimbabwe. A 14-year-old girl died and she was pregnant.
Wow.
And she was 14 years old and she was married, but there is a certain I don't want to call it tribe, but it's they the white garment churches,
denomination,
exactly, the denomination, thank you. So when a girl once she has started reached puberty stage, the minute they see even her breasts have started coming out, she's ready for marriage. She's already been chosen. The man she's getting married to, I think he was probably in his 50s. You know what I mean? And that's what happens. 40, 50, very old man who get these young girls. She was 14 years old. 14 years old. And I remember Zimbabweans made a lot of noise at that time, because they made a lot of noise to the government that you've got to do something about this because it's not right. But the problem is, it goes down to the parents, the mothers, and they don't see it as wrong.
Because that's what happened to them.
They are in it.
Yes.
So they are actually in it. They don't see it as wrong. In fact, they see us as a problem. Right now, so you and me talking like this, we are the problem. We are the problem.
They'll pass us and beat us with stones.
You mentioned something about financial and oh God, my point has just disappeared. But what I wanted to say was, with regards to people when they are they are women who are financially stable, and coming back to our Osinachi, who was financially stable. But the problem is especially in the Christians denomination, Christians do not believe in divorce. So they feel tied. Some Christians, yes. Those Christians who do not believe in they feel tied and they cannot break free from that. Now, I don't know with regards to Osinashi's case whether that was one of her reasons, because when people mention divorce, and if you're told from a young age, divorce is a no-no.
It's a sin.
I was told it's a sin when I was growing up. It's a sin. It cannot happen. You should not let it happen at all. Full stop. There's no two ways about it.
There's no room for divorce.
There is no room. It's not even a conversation you can have. You know, once you are told that and it's embedded in you, no matter what happens at home, that is what you were stuck with. There's no divorce. So, like I said, I don't know.
You see your mom was there and she was going through all these things.
Exactly.
So you're thinking, I'm not going to start bringing the curse in this family.
No. Embarrassment, shame. How can you do that? I can give you another example. I have a friend, you said you advocate a lot for men. I have a friend of mine who was abused in his marriage. And it wasn't physical, but there was a lot of emotional, psychological, and financial abuse in the home. And the wife actually used to say to him, "Oh, I know you won't divorce me because you love God too much. And remember, God doesn't like divorce." And he stayed. He stayed and he said, "Tandy, I was bitter, I was angry. And the only thing that at the end made him divorce and leave, it's like he was waiting for something more catastrophic to happen so that he could divorce. And the only thing that made him leave her was when he discovered that the child she was carrying was not his.
Hi.
And that was and he waited until she gave birth. Then he took the child. He had to sneak out.
Went for
DNA tests to say that she had an affair. And that to him was the passport for divorce. So do you see, in terms of what exactly, in terms of our faith, our walk, our spiritual life, what is right, what is wrong, what is being taught, what is being said to our children, to to the congregation? What are they being taught? What are they being advised when you go to the elder, let alone her being married to a pastor, and you go and you say, "This is the situation I'm in," and you go and tell the other elder pastors, what are you told? There's no room for divorce. Or you're told it's going to break the church because this is a big congregation. Imagine if they know that the pastor is abusing his wife. What's going to happen? All those things, and you are made to stay. It's like they know, especially with us women, they know there's a point, the buttons to press that will make you stay.
But you see, coming back to that, I'm always of somebody's own value. Okay, so I know that sometimes when we talk, I'm always the advocate, or I'm always the advocate of the other side. And I disagree with a lot of things sometimes when people say, because I'm the advocate of the other side. And I'm thinking, yes, the pastors are here telling you do this, do that. But you have your own free will. You have your own brain. And I feel like those people who are in church and they get told what to do are people who are lazy. They don't want to read their Bible. They depend on a man. They don't care because they don't have a relationship with God. They have a relationship with man.
That's it.
Because if you have a relationship with God, you need to know what God is saying for yourself. You need to read the Bible for yourself. Okay, you go to church today and the pastor said, "Oh, this is A, B, C, D, this is what's happening." Go home and read the Bible. Go home and ask God to give you, because they say that Jesus Christ died and the veil split so that we can go direct to God and speak to him. So why would I go to a man to speak to God on my behalf? Go and speak to God yourself. And the only way you speak to God is if you have a relationship with him. But if you have a relationship with man will tell you anything they want you to hear.
Whatever they want you to hear.
That man is also human.
Yep.
That pastor is human. So he will make mistakes just like you will make mistakes. But God cannot make mistakes. So the only way for you to know for yourself is if you have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
I was in a church. I've even been a deaconess. I took my call and I gave it back. I was like, I'm not having this. Because I said, I'm in a church, but if I allow the doctrines of that church that is not according to the word of God and not according to the Bible that I'm reading, what am I doing? What justice am I doing to my children?
What am I doing?
What am I doing to my children? So I left. I took the caller. I left. I said, I can't be in this church. And because of the same thing, they were talking about divorce. And they said, the Bible says, but I stood up.
It's no to divorce.
I stood up in church and I said, with all due respect, Pastor, A, B, C, D. And they started telling me that I have to go back to the father of my children, even before hearing.
Go back?
Yes. Go back to the father of my children, even before listening or hearing why I left. Why would you do that? So I now go up and I said, sir, let me give you an example. And then I used one minister because she was the one with, no, you cannot divorce. So I now said, let me use you as an example. So I was giving an example that things that can lead to divorce. A lot of things can lead to divorce. But I'm not saying divorce is good, because nobody in their right state of mind enters a marriage saying, tomorrow I'm going to divorce.
No, nobody does.
Everybody enters a marriage saying this is forever.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. Nobody wakes up in the morning and say, today I'm going to die.
No.
But they do happen. Things like that happen, whether you like it or not. So I now give a pastor one example, because I know there's a lady, this happens a lot. We all know the biological father raped their children a lot. So I now asked the girl, the minister, she was in church. So I stood up and I said, excuse me, sir, with all due respect, I don't think that doctrine is right. Yes, divorce is not good, because this divorce destroys children, it destroys church, it destroys community, it destroys everything. But they didn't want to hear the but. So I now get example, and I told the woman, excuse me, Minister so-and-so, no names mentioned. And then I said, if you found out that your husband, and the only reason why I have to use you is because I want you to fill that shoe of that woman. Because if I say another woman, you won't feel it.
You won't feel it.
Yeah. So if I tell your husband raped your child, hey, God forbid. She was going on and on and on. And I said, you're saying that because it hurts you to even think about it. But it happens to someone else. So if that girl came to you, if that woman came to you and said, this is what happened to my husband did this to my child, what advice would you give the person as a minister? What advice? The church is looking at me. Everybody's looking at me thinking the worst demon has entered this church. Hallelujah. Let's pray for her. She needs deliverance. Then I was like, what advice would you give that person? Minister so-and-so. Let me hear what you're saying. She said, oh, it will never. I say, it will never happen. Have you not heard? Or you just assume, or you just want to pretend that these things don't happen. These things do happen.
Yeah.
So what are you going to tell the woman? I just want your answer. And somebody goes, I said, no, it's her. I want her because she's a minister. So I want her to respond to me. So this woman has come to you. She's standing in front of you. What would you say? She's like, yeah, but I'll say like divorce is not good. If she can't stay, the man just raped her child.
And you're saying to her that divorce is not good.
There's no if. She said, if she can't stay with the man, then they should separate. That's the day I left that church.
Wow.
Took my collar, put it down, and said, nah, I'm not staying in a church that has this doctrine, and I have girls who listen to this and they'll think I have to stay even if the man is beat. Everything the man does is okay. That's the day I left the church and I never went back.
No. You see, and it all starts with regards to the foundation, to our belief and our respect, and most especially, and again, unfortunately I'm mentioning a lot with regards to our African culture, because of the way we are raised with so much respect, you know, and to listen to our elders, to listen to people of authority. So when you go into when you join a church, you know, and you're told that this is what happens, and whatever they have fed you, what they have told you, you hold it as if this is the Bible. And they can. You see, you said something, and I said to myself, that's the manipulation. They're very manipulative at times, to a point where you don't even have the chance to think for yourself, because of some of the things that we see being done on social media. You're thinking, how can people do this? You know, but clearly it's because they've been so manipulated, and that's how the men can even do it. If a church can do it, why can a man not do it at home? So when you then go and say, this is what's happening to me, they cannot protect you. A church is a place where you're supposed to be able to go for protection, to pour out everything and get a solution. It's the house of solutions.
Yes.
But in this case, you're not getting one.
You're not getting one.
So I think, and I don't know, again, this is just my assumption, that whether this was one of the reasons why Osinachi did not leave was maybe because she was married to a pastor, and the church says divorce is not good. And again, which I do remember when I was reading, that I think one of the pastors said, I did tell her that we need to pray about it. And she would actually say that, no, I am praying about it and he's going to stop. Yeah. I remember one of the things that one of the people who said they tried to talk to her, that she said, no, I am praying. I've been told the scriptures to read, and we are praying about it, and he is going to stop.
Change, yes.
He's going to change. So all of that. Sometimes I think you can even remove yourself from a situation and pray about it when you're not there.
Yes. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. We're not advocating for divorce.
Exactly.
But you can separate. You can come out of the situation, because sometimes you don't see things when you're inside. It's like, I have a friend of mine. Her house smells really bad because when she cooks, she closes the windows. She doesn't open it. She cooks all this fish and all these things. So her house has this smell, but she can't smell it because she's inside. So I told her, get out of your house, go away for 1 week, come back and smell what I smell every time I enter your house. Because she couldn't smell it. I kept on telling her, I could do. And she puts perfume, and when she puts perfume, it's worse.
It's worse.
I said, you don't need perfume. When she left, she went away for 1 week. She went away actually for 2 weeks, so she went back home. When she came back in the house, she was like, I told her, that is what I tell you. But you couldn't smell it because you're always in the house and you're living there.
It's your odor, you carry it with you.
You carry it with you, so you can't smell it. So it's the same thing when you're inside the situation, you cannot see. You need to come out and then look out from the fence. That's when you will see and say, wow. So what Tandy and Lydia were actually saying is true, is this and this. But you can't see when you're inside. So sometimes get out of the situation and pray from outside.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, people who think that somebody will change or I will change, you cannot change anybody.
No, you can't. Unless they themselves are ready to change. You cannot change anyone. You cannot change anybody.
It's the same thing with alcohol, the people who are alcoholic, people who are addicts to whatever they are addicts to, whether it's addicts to drugs, addicts to sex, addicts to whatever they are addicts to. They cannot change until they
themselves
accept and realize that I actually have a problem and I need help.
Yeah.
So you cannot change somebody. You cannot sit down and say, oh, she will change, or he will change, or I will change him. How are you going to change him? You're not God.
No. And unless the person is ready to change themselves, then you're really just wasting your time. And time is I always think that, each and every one of us has the same number of, we wake up in the morning, you all have the same number of hours in a day. And if you're going to spend 3/4 of your day miserable because of the abuse you're getting at home, and yet that person who's abusing you, they are enjoying themselves. They are laughing. They are having the time of their life. I mean, I always talk about the day when I remember years ago with my ex-husband when I was going through abuse. And then I'll be the one going to the toilet, I cry. I go to the bedroom.
I was actually coming back to that. I was actually coming to you now, to your own personal life, because I just wanted you to tell us, how did you escape? What was that your moment of taking your power back?
You know what? And I never forget it, because maybe it was God who just, at that time there was, when you just feel something just come in. And I was crying in the toilet again as usual. And I had been told, I cannot change the remote control TV. I cannot do anything. And after you've been abused like that, then somebody still wants to have sex with you again. It's all of that, And I thought to myself, I can't do this. I've had enough. I literally had enough of being shamed, of being abused, of constantly being pulled down, my self-esteem. I used to be the youth leader. I used to play the drums in church. I was told, you're a married woman now, you can't do that. And I listened. Youth leader, you're not a youth anymore, so how can you be the youth leader? I listened. Part of the youth ministry, the youth leaders, not the leaders of the church, when we used to meet to discuss, I'm your husband and you are supposed to be here with me at home and you are busy up and down at the church. I listened. And then I remember even just before the wedding that there was things that happened, red flags. You talked about red flags. There were red flags. But then if somebody then comes and says, I'm not a person to use an iron fist, and I'm thinking, but right now you kind of are. That was a red flag. But I thought, and people around me, again, it comes down to when you go and seek advice, because you think, let me go and seek advice from my mothers, the people who are, not my mother, but people who are respected. You know, and people who are more mature, that this is what's happening. And they said to me, Tandy, this is what happens. This is what marriage is all about. You think some of us with our husbands, what has been happening? This is it. Come join the club. You're doing the right thing. And I thought, okay, let me stay. But I went through so much financially. I was not allowed to keep my bank card. I remember one time when I had my bank card, I'd forgotten the PIN number. And I was in a shop and I wanted to buy a dress for myself. And I couldn't remember the PIN number. So I actually called and I said, what's the PIN number? Why? What do you want it for? I'm like, it's the dress I want to buy. He's like, and this was, you're told 3 chances. This was the final one. I'm like, I can't remember the PIN number. What's the PIN number? What do you want it for? I'm like, well, I want to buy myself a dress. What dress is it? All these kind of dresses that you want to buy. What are you buying for? You got enough? I'm like, no, but I want to buy myself. It's a really nice dress. I want to buy it for myself. I was given the wrong number. I put it, card was blocked. When I went back, it was all hell broke loose. Just because I wanted to buy myself a dress, which was on sale. I wanted to buy myself a dress with my own money. I wasn't allowed to do that. And I think the last straw for me was when it was over my son. My son was born. And having a fight, and I was slapped. And that time I had a bad shoulder. And I remember my arm was twisted. So because he already knew that I've got a bad shoulder, twisted my arm to a point where I fell down because of the pain in my arm. Because when I was slapped, I fought back. I thought, I ain't going to go down without a fight. And I had already said, listen, if you're ever going to hit me, I will fight. Doesn't matter how tall you are or whatever, I will fight back. And until today, I will always fight back. And my arm was twisted. And at that point, I fell down. And that's when I was punched until God knows what. I called the police. The police took long to come because at that point I was laying there and I was being told, who do you think you are now? What do you think you are now? You think you can overpower me? You think you can win? You think this is a game? You are nothing. I made you. That was the first statement. And he said, if it wasn't for me, I married you, I rescued you. You rescued me as if I was desperate for marriage? And yet I wasn't. But it's all these words. You see, words have got power. All these words that were being said to me, and you're being stripped. You're stripped and made to feel as if you're a nothing. And it was at that point I thought to myself, I called the police took too long. And because he had moved into another room, I ran out barefoot. And I thought, I can't do this. And I ran to my sister's house. All I did was grab the car keys because it was far. I got into the car and it was around 2 o'clock in the morning. And I drove to my sister's house. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm banging on the door. And I need help. That was the last time. First and last. You do not hit me. But it had been an accumulation of things, of abuse financially, abuse emotionally, where you feel like you're nothing. You are, I remember one time it was preached, you know, the enemy will remove you from people so you don't talk to anybody. I had nobody. My whole circle was destroyed. I had nobody to talk to because I was told all these people are bad. I was told people who are single are bad. I was told people who are divorced are bad. So you can't talk to any of them. And this is something that after when I was divorced, that I remember saying to people that, you know what, there's nothing wrong. People make it seem as if just because you've been divorced, you're no longer a woman. You can't be friends with anybody. You can't talk to anybody, and that's the stigma. That's why people don't want to get divorced. People don't want to separate because there's a word that is used in our language. It's a very derogatory word. In Mvana. They don't call you by your name anymore.
Like
they don't call you
goods.
Exactly. That's what they call you. So that's the title, and people don't want to carry that title. You know what I mean? So it's all of that, and that's the title I was now being called. People were now saying that, "Are you sure you want to get divorced?" Man, you are now second-hand goods. Who would want you? All those kind of little things that people say to you, that at the end you find women will stay. But I was like, I don't really care. At this point, I don't care. And that was my get out card. And I'm so glad.
But you still found love again.
Oh,
so there's love after divorce.
I am the most happiest woman ever.
There's love after divorce.
It's only when somebody asks me about it that I think about it. But now I do not even think about it. And I said to myself, this is what I should have had in the first place.
Yes.
Is there love like this? My husband treats me like a queen, and he says it. And if there's anything, which sometimes I even say to him, okay, I think it's a bit too much. So protective that even if anybody says anything to me, oh my God, he literally puts his hand and he's ready to attack that person. At home, I'm not even allowed to lift anything because he's there. He's amazing. And I am the most happiest woman. I don't want to lie.
Amen. Amen, sister. Let's tap on that. Let me tap on that. Rub on that. So there's also this women as well. There's this type of women as well. And when I was going back to talk about the many aspects of why women stay, and I was talking about young girls who get married at an early age, when they're now older, because I did see a program of a young girl. She was married when she was young, and she knew, and this is happening to some women in Africa, again, top African continent, and it's also happening just all over the world, not just African continent. We have women who know that their husbands are molesting and abusing their children, but they're still staying, and they're covering up for the men, and they're telling the children, but it's your fault. Why did you wear that skirt? Why were you near him? Why did they don't protect these children? And then I was so angry with those kind of women. And then one day somebody told me something. She told me, you see that girl, she was married at the age of 13. So when now she had a child and her husband is abusing her child, she doesn't know anything because she's a child herself.
She's a child herself.
Okay. So that is when I now started changing my perspective of these women. I wanted to now know the story behind it. Why would you stay?
Why would you stay?
Why would you stay? And when now I started, why would you stay? Instead of me just judging the person, which we shouldn't do at all, I started understanding the reasons behind it. The reason behind why a woman would just stay and being abused. The reason why a woman will stay and the husband is molesting their children. The reason why a woman will stay and the child is being molested and still cover for the man.
Yeah.
The reason why a woman will just stay in such situations. And when I found out the reason, then that's where I think that is where now we have to come in and start helping this person.
Yeah.
We need to find the roots as to why this is happening.
What has happened and why is happening like that?
Why is it happening? And also, we also have this kind of women who cannot be by themselves. It's from one relationship to the other. One relationship to the other. From frying pan to fire. Frying pan to fire.
Yeah.
I have friends like that. I have friends who they'll tell me, they'll say that, oh, my ex was like this. And then the person they're with, I'm like, if I'm you, I'd rather go back to my ex.
Yeah.
Because if this is what this man is doing to you, and your ex did not even do half of these things, I'd rather go back to my ex.
Exactly.
So there are these kind of women who they do not want to stay by themselves because they thrive happiness from someone else.
Yes.
What do you say about this?
You see, the problem is when happiness is, how can I say this?
It's a process.
It is a process, but happiness is from within. If you are not happy yourself and you expect somebody else to come and help make you, that's where the problem starts. I cannot wait for you, Lydia, to come and make me happy. I cannot wait for my husband to come and make me happy.
Expectations.
I have to be happy myself. It's like when you, I listened to T.D. Jakes when he preached about being whole. You are 100% yourself. You're not half. I'm not 50%. I'm not 75. I am whole. And in my wholeness, I need to be healed. I need to be happy. I need to be full of joy. I need to be at peace. I need to be at a place of Zen. Yeah? So when I find someone, they are finding me at that place of happiness, and they are bringing in more happiness, and we can make it happy together. It's not because when they're not there, that's when you're sad. When you haven't got that man to make you happy, that's when you hop from one relationship to another.
Yes.
It's because you yourself within, you're not happy. You yourself are not able to satisfy your own needs. You're not able to buy yourself that luxury holiday, that bag that you want, that dress that I talked about. You can't do that. You can't do that because you want somebody else to do that for you. You can't go to an event by yourself or with your friends because you feel, oh, what will people say to me if I don't go with a man? What will people say to me? And those are the things that people, even single women, you know, not just single mothers, single women go through. Oh, I can't go this because I haven't got a man. I want to go I haven't got a man. And then you end up going from one relationship to another because you want to be with somebody just, you know, with a man and go somewhere with a man. That's the problem. That is a huge problem. Be happy within yourself. Have another circle of friends and friendship and relationships that you can create and you can build. And you can still be able to go out, even just after work, you're hanging out, you're having fun with your friends. You need to be able to create those kind of relationships, not to just be dependent on a man. Hence, you hopping from one relationship to another. You are not whole. You are not complete yourself. If you are not complete, you will have a problem. You will hop from one to another and expect that man to satisfy you, to buy you that. And also, you put yourself on a platform, on a standard. You want that Gucci bag, Gucci this, Gucci that. And yet you can't afford it. So you want a man to come in and to be able to buy all those things. I watched an episode of these young girls at university, and they're like, if you can't do this for me, if you can't do that, you need to buy me a new car, do this for me, do that for me. If you can't do it, I'll get another man. I mean, seriously? Is that the world we're living in now? The man is supposed to provide for you, yeah, but is he the one who's supposed to bring you that joy and happiness? I'm happy when my husband does all these things for me. I'm thrilled and I'm excited. But I'm not a person who's miserable, even without. Do you see what I mean? You have to be happy within. Happiness starts from within.
You, yeah.
Not for him to come and make you happy because you're not healed. You're giving him a hard job to try and help to make you better. And maybe that's why you're hopping from one relationship to another. Because the one you were with was like, look, you're too much damaged goods. I can't do that. You're carrying too much cargo. And you expect me to heal you. You've got to heal
yourself.
Go for therapy. Go for counseling. Go for whatever it is.
Take time out.
Take some time out. Take some time out. Heal. You need to heal. And then you can go out.
Okay. What about, again, what I know with all this, I can't leave, I can't go, is what are people going to say? What is the community going to say? What are they going to think about me? And with, again, going back to Osinachi, I saw a comment because after she passed on, and there's this woman who was very angry. She was like, look at you. You are the ones saying that she could have left. And you're the same people who could have, again, start talking about her and saying, oh, look at her, she's now a single woman, she has nothing, she's left her husband, she couldn't even keep her husband, and now because she's gone, you're here saying she could have left. So the society, the community, your family, your friends, we have judges who never went to school. Listen, judges who doesn't even know how school of judge looks like,
and you have a jury.
Yes.
You know, it's again, it comes down to, like earlier when I said, if you go and seek help and the help you go and seek is the wrong kind of help, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to suffer. The family, you mentioned the family where a lady went home and her brothers beat her and she went back. That's the wrong kind of help. It's because of what they have been brought up, how they've been raised, and how they have, what they have seen. Exposure is very important. It's very, very important. And I know right now, again, I've just come from Zimbabwe, and I'm so proud because right now you can see there's a lot of people who are trying to reach out, especially to people in the village. They are going a lot of seminars and to talking to them and to try to educate them and empower them so that people can see, even the children can aspire to be something else. And to become something else and to do something else. So there is a lot of that, and I think it all comes down to what has been fed to you. If our people, if our families in our society, if the culture, if the people who are surrounding you are not of a good influence, then you're not going to go anywhere.
Yes.
I'll take this. This was once said by one of my pastors when he was preaching. He said, you need 3 different types of people in your life. Someone who's above you, who you look up to, who you respect. At the same level at you, second person. And the third person, somebody who you can bring up and advise in a positive way. And it also comes down to how you yourself, with where you are right now. If somebody is to come to you and say, this is what I'm going through in my marriage, what are you going to say to them? If you are married, who are you looking up to in terms of marriages? Who do you respect? What kind of not that you're going to follow exactly what they're doing, but who are the people who you respect in terms of their marriage, what they have done and what they have achieved in their years of marriage? And if you're not happy with those people, if you don't aspire or say, you know what, this is beautiful, then you need to find another couple that you can be like, this is beautiful. You've got the right to choose who you want to be able to say, this is something that I would want. I will come back to Grace Oguda. Grace Oguda talks about, she's from Kenya as well, and Donated Wig, and she's got a lot of projects that she does. But one of the things that she talks about a lot about to do with womanhood, and reignite, is she says that when she grew up in a domestic violence and abusive family, but one time when she went for dinner, she was 9 years old, she went for dinner in another home, and as they were sitting at the table, she watched how the husband was with the wife, family, and they were laughing, pulling the chair for the wife to come and sit, and the way they just engaged and associated. And she said, as the 9-year-old, she said, this is what I want, not what I've got at home. And that was the exposure that she had from age 9, and that is what she has right now. So it's about what you see and you think, this is what I want, not what I'm seeing. You were brought up in an abusive a family where you saw your mom being abused, etc., etc. But you made the decision that, you know what, I don't want this for my kids. Yes, you may have been in it in the beginning, but you knew this is not what I want, and you got out. And you were able to say, this is what I want. So this is what needs to happen. I grew up where, and I thought to do it as a sign of respect. The minute they got into the car to drive away, it was first name basis. And my dad used to say, because we want to keep that fire burning between the two of us. And I remember saying to my husband, listen, my son, yes, I got a son, but you ain't going to call me that. Call me by my name. And up until today, that's exactly what we call each other, by our first names. Besides the sweetie, honey, lovey, and all that, But what is it that you've got? What do you want to do to keep your fire burning, your marriage, your relationship? Who do you look at? And what do you want to change? What do you pick? You pick something and you say, this I will pick, this I will not. Because it's not everything that you will pick. And you have the right to do that. It all comes down to empowerment. You talk about families. How are we educating? How are we empowering our children? If we're sending them to school to learn, and they are learning, when they come home, why do we say we remove this but keep that? Why do we subtract and add? Why are we subtracting a good, happy home, a family, and loving relationships and all that? Why do we remove it and say, no, abuse has to be part of it?
It doesn't have to. And I like the way you just said about the mom and the thing, because I know even in Kenya we do, Mama so-and-so, my mom was forever called Mama Biko, my brother's name. And they always, in Africa mostly, they always tend to get a boy and they say Mama so. Mama means mother. And mother is this, mother that.
Exactly.
But now, if you're in an abusive relationship, I want you to take that mother out. I want you to take Mama Denise, like Mama, because they always look for firstborn, either the firstborn or the boy. So with me, they'll call me Mama Denise. So I want to come out from that Mama Denise. Who am I without being Mama Denise? Exactly. Do you understand? Who are you without being the mother of that child? I think that's where you should start from, because you are that girl who respected herself before you met that Baba, the father of that your child. So you need to come out and say, who am I? That's where you get your value. That's where you get your wholeness from there. Because when you started having children, you were sharing your wholeness with this person and sharing your value with this person. Come out. I am not mama, mother, whoever. I'm not anybody's mother right now. Who are you when you're not anybody's mother? Mm-hmm. Who are you when you're not anybody's wife? Or when you're not anybody's husband? Who are you? Exactly. Do you really know who you are?
Exactly.
Or without these tags, Mrs. and father who and mother who, you're a nobody. And that's why we're scared. Because we don't want to be nobodies. Because we like those tags.
We think we were nobodies.
Yes, we think we are nobodies. We
Exactly.
think, oh, I don't want to be a nobody. I have to be Mrs. So-and-so.
Exactly.
I don't city. And I keep on saying that there are some things that are not necessities. There are things that is our heart's desire.
Yeah.
We want to have them. Yes, the Bible says that a man will find a good wife. But if you don't find, that doesn't mean you're not a good person.
No.
If you're not married, that doesn't mean you're not a good person. Yes, the Bible says go and multiply. If you cannot have children for one reason or the other, I don't know why. Mm-hmm. You are not a bad person.
No.
So don't feel depressed. You want to die. You want to kill yourself. You want to just settle. You know, today I was talking to my boss in the office. I said, I've been single for so long to settle. I am not going to settle. I know what I want. I've written down what I want. My children know what I want. And I've told God, if I'm not getting this, I'd rather die single. That's what I've said. I'd rather die single. Because I've given up so much.
Yeah.
I've given up so much to just go and now settle for less. I am not going to settle.
What is that?
Do you understand?
Exactly.
You need to value yourself and know what you want. Because even the Bible says, ask and it shall be given.
Yeah.
And even if you don't get what you asked for, God has something better for you. Because you see, I always say this, and my children know that. I always say that God denied me children.
Okay.
God denied me children. I'll explain to you. Be very careful what you pray for. I prayed for God to give me children, but He denied me children because He knew if He gave me children, I would not deal with them. So I know people see me with those girls and think they're my children. No. God replaced those children and gave me angels instead.
Oh,
God did not give me children. He gave me angels. And they know that I say that all the time. God denied me children and gave me angels. Because that's what when I prayed for children, God looked at me and said, you can't deal with them. Let me give you something better. So when we are praying for something and God doesn't deliver, we are there crying, oh my God, I want this, my God. But God will replace it with something better, something sustainable, something that will stay forever. So if you don't have children, you don't have a husband, or you don't have a wife, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That doesn't mean you're an evil person. That doesn't mean you're a nobody. That doesn't mean you make heaven. No. We all know what to do to make heaven. Those are not necessity, because you can live. Necessity is something you cannot live without.
Yeah.
We have people who live without children and they're happy. I met this one guy one day, and he's a Kenyan, by the way. And he told me he doesn't want children. I was